Bob McKenzie and his family have made Whitby home for close to 3 decades, but not being born and raised here is the focus of some ribbing from at least one other member of the Hall of Fame.
I always joke that Gary Roberts, who of course was born and bred Whitby, always told me that I could try as hard as I want, but I'd never be true Whitby, that it was one thing to live there, it was another thing to be born and raised there. And that's probably true. Part of it was the sports, specifically the lacrosse. Now, we were originally living in Pickering, and my son Mike was registered in Whitby lacrosse anyway, but I kind of thought it would be cool to actually live in Whitby and just be part of that sporting community.
From a graduate of Ryerson University to his first full-time writing job in Sault Ste. Marie to the Toronto Star and now TSN, McKenzie has always been driving to give the fans more. As editor at the Hockey News, Bob McKenzie is credited with making the publication into a page-turning example of hockey journalism, stripping away the image of it being there just to serve the interests of the NHL.
For me, it's just a job. I mean, you're there to report. And it was the same when I started at the Sault Star, when I went to the Hockey News, the Toronto Star, TSN. It doesn't matter whether it's print, doesn't matter whether it's broadcast, doesn't matter radio, TV, magazine. At the end of the day, it's basically news and information and how you present it. And for me, the more news and information you can present, the better. Along the way, you better entertain too. Part of that is it can't be so dry, but I think first and foremost, when I got the job at the Hockey News, I think there was a sign of a little bit of a perception that maybe it was a house organ for the National Hockey League. And I just wanted to make sure that we did good, solid journalism and tried to provide more news and information in the most entertaining way possible.
McKenzie has earned the trust of the Hockey Brotherhood. In return, he's become the most trusted hockey reporter in the country. The way fans get their news has changed over the years. McKenzie has embraced the methods and continues to flourish.
I just think of myself as a hockey writer, a hockey reporter. And because the world has changed around us, it doesn't matter whether you actually write. There are just myriad ways of communicating with people, and people get their news and information from a lot of different sources that used to be unconventional but no longer are. So you got to change with the times and make sure that you do it. But at the very end of the day, it's really no different than working on a typewriter with a piece of paper.
From his roots in Scarborough to living in Pickering with a spell in Ajax and back to Whitby, no matter what the postal code on the homestead, it's an easy question to answer where home truly is for Bob McKenzie.
I briefly left Whitby and moved to Ajax, and it was very nice, and we were there for a little less than 2 years, and people would say to me what my address was, where I lived, and I would hesitate and I would say Whitby, and there's not that there's anything wrong with Ajax, but I could never bring myself to say that's where I was from. So I always told people I was from Whitby. Whitby for me is just, it's home. And it's where my family, where my wife Cindy, my sons Michael and Sean, where we all grew up together. And that's, you know, and the sports that we played and the friends that we made and the community that we were in, that to me is what Whitby's all about.